Now that you know how to find files on your file system, it's time to take a look at some of the commands you can use to find text within those files. In this video, your boss has given you a file full of information about people at a certain company. It's your job to look through this file and find the top 5 employees so that your company can poach them. When you want to search through a file, there are a few commands you have at your disposal. The simplest of these is called grep. Grep works by, of course, using the grep command, and then passing in a phrase or word you want to search for, and then finally passing in the file name. In this example, let's say you want to find all the lines that have the word what in them. All you need to do is say grep, followed by what in quotes, and then the file name. By default, the command will end up printing each line in the file that contains the word what.
Alright, so this time around, our boss has asked us to take a file and then look through it and find out who the top 5 paid workers are in the file. Since we really don't want to do this ourselves manually, we're going to go ahead and try and use some command line tools to do this for us. The first tool we're going to look at is called grep. Grep just takes in a search term and a file, and then shows you all the lines in the file where that search term shows up. To get started, make sure you've downloaded the workers.csv file and that you've CD'd to wherever it may be. Mine's on my desktop. Once you're there, let's go ahead and take a quick look at this file to kind of see what's going on in there. We'll use the head command to just look at the first chunk of the file. So just type head, and then workers.csv. This is a comma-separated file, and as you can see, the first line kind of shows you what each of the columns in this file stands for. It looks like the third column over is the name column. As you can see, we have Aaron, Adrian, Alan. And then the next one over is the hourly rate column. So just as a quick intro to grep, let's see if we can find all the workers in this file whose names are Carlos. To do so, we just type grep, and then Carlos in quotes, and then pass in workers.csv. And when you do that, you actually don't get any results. The reason for this is that grep is actually case sensitive. If we want to use the lowercase Carlos, we have to add a -i to tell it to be case insensitive. Now, a pretty common use case with grep is that instead of looking at a specific file, you just want to analyze some chunk of text that gets passed into you from a previous command. The easiest example of that is passing in the results of the cat command. Cat is kind of like head, but instead of spitting out the first chunk of the file, it just spits out the whole file. So to do this, we'll just type cat and then workers.csv. And then to pass the results of this command to grep, we can use the pipe operator. Then, like before, we just do grep, and this time we'll just do uppercase Carlos. And as you can see, we get the same results. Okay, so that was pretty straightforward. On top of just searching for simple terms, we can also use regular expressions to search within a file. If you haven't seen regular expressions before, they might look a little complicated. Personally, I usually build them up by using a website called rubular.com. I can leave a link to it in the video's notes. For our next exercise, let's go ahead and try to print out everybody's favorite numbers. This is the number that's 2 commas after their name. Right here we see 134.72. Regular expressions work by looking for patterns. In this case, we know that we'll always have a comma, and then some set of numbers, a period, and then some other set of numbers followed by another comma. Let's go ahead and clear our screen and start building up this regular expression. So like before, we'll use a cat and we'll pipe that into grep. And then this time we'll pass in 2 new flags. We'll pass in the capital E and the lowercase o. E specifies that we're going to use an expression, and then O means that we should omit anything that doesn't match our expression. Then we'll put the expression between 2 single quotes. Alright, so building up the static parts of a regular expression are pretty straightforward. You can just put them in there. So in this case, that's the comma, the period, and the other comma. And these are the parts that will never change, right? The tricky part comes when you need to specify the parts that are dynamic. In this case, we know that we want there to be 1 or more numbers before that period. So if we go back, we can specify this by doing open square bracket, close square bracket, and then inside saying 0 through 9. The 0 through 9 means that we want to find one of any character that is in the range 0 to 9. And then we follow this up with a plus. The plus means that we want 1 or more of these numbers. Then we can just duplicate this for the second part. And when you're done, just hit return. And as you can see, it does look like it printed out some things that match this. We have 428, 395. But it also looks like we printed out some other things that don't have any periods, 807, so we can't really be sure that this is exactly what we were looking for. Plus, we don't have people's names. And really, when we come to think about it, to get grep to work out to do exactly what we're trying to do by finding people's names and their salaries and printing it all out nicely, we'd have to do a bit more work with this regex. Luckily, there is another command that's actually perfectly suited to be used with CSVs.
Like grep, awk allows you to specify a pattern to match against, and then a file to search in. Let's say you have a CSV full of Power Ranger information, but you really just want to see who each Power Ranger was and what the actor's name was that played them. You can use awk, along with a print command, to tell it to print the items that are in the first and third columns of the file. Unlike grep, awk is basically its own language, and it's built specifically for text processing. This makes dealing with things like CSVs a breeze. The script part of the command is made up of two parts. The first is a regex, which is used to match against lines in the file. The second is an action that is taken anytime a line matches.
Alright, so instead of using grep and regexes, let's use the slightly more powerful awk. First, we'll clear our screen, and let's take a look at our file one more time. If we do head workers.csv, what we really want is just the thing that's in the third column. If we count over 1, 2, 3, we have the name, so we want their name, and then we want their hourly rate. So let's just start with getting these printed out side by side. To do so, we'll type awk, A-W-K, and then first we'll use the -F flag, and we'll pass in a comma to this flag. This flag specifies what the separator character is in our file. And then next we write the program that we want to use to analyze the CSV. In this case, it's surrounded by single quotes, and we'll do open bracket, closed bracket, and we'll say print $3, comma $4. And if you aren't familiar with this $ number syntax, it's used in a few languages like Ruby and Swift, and all it really means is the first, second, third, fourth argument in a list of anonymous arguments. So you can think of this quick little program as analyzing each line in this file. These arguments are each column in this line. So in this case, we want to print out what's at column 3 and column 4. Finally, we'll pass in workers.csv to specify the file. And as you can see, that worked out, and this time we can be a lot more sure that these numbers we're seeing are actually the salaries that we're looking for. Now, we do still have a few more things to do before we're ready to give our boss our list of the top 5 workers, like we have a bunch of duplicates, and these aren't in any particular order, but we'll take care of that next.